Okay, so to start off, I need to disclose something. I'm a pretty good dog sniffer. So, what I mean by that, I've been observing dogs over decades. I grew up with dogs, and it's fun to watch them start to sniff things. Sometimes they just really get into it and they smell something they really like or they really don't like. And they just get going. They're just that little blowout at the end. So I like to do that to my wife sometimes. And, we go to church on a regular basis. And I like to be inappropriate sometimes. And what I mean by that is I like to, bring out the dog sniff at, inappropriate times, like a prayer. Right? So we're at church, the prayer's going, and I'm thinking, you know what, right now would be a good time to do the dog sniff. So, turn over to my wife and I just get real deep into her shoulder and I just go to town. She's always like, "Man, stop. Don't be doing that." And it's just fun for me. So, this one particular Sunday, right, we get done with the first block and we're heading over to Sunday school, right? There's like a 10-minute break in between. And usually my wife beats me over there because I'm just like talking to random people, and I just get in there a little bit late. So I walk into the class, and as I'm walking in, got a little banter going back and forth between me and some other people. They're saying that I should say the prayer because I'm one of the last people in there. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be doing that. And meanwhile, I'm looking for my wife, right? So we normally sit in the back, and I'm looking in the back row. I don't see her back there. And I'm looking around and I see her up in the front row, which is weird, right? She doesn't normally sit up there. So I go sit next to her, and, somebody else gives a prayer. And while they're up there praying, I'm like, you know what? Now would be a really good time for the dog sniff. And so just do what I normally do. I just get real deep into her shoulder and I just start going at it. And as I start doing this, my wife she just like, bristles, right? And I have this realization as she does this that, this is not my wife. And, there's those dreams you have where like you show up to school, like without, clothes on, or maybe you don't have pants on, but it's like well into the dream, you've been at school for a while and like all of a sudden you realize like, you are where you are and you're like, man, what were the decisions I made this morning that got me to this point? Like, how did I end up here? And then you just wake up, right? Well, this situation, I did not wake up. I was awake the whole time. I was, in fact, sniffing another woman that was not my wife. And so, panic sets in. I'm like, oh no, this is not good. What do? I can't start apologizing to this girl because that would be inappropriate because the prayer's going on. And, the prayer gets over and it turns out it's this Hispanic girl, she doesn't really speak English that well, which was fine because I speak Spanish, right? And so I'm trying to explain to her, I thought you were my wife, what else do you say? And so I'm sitting right next to her, and so there's an open seat next to her, and then the seat over is actually her husband, right? So it's her husband, backpack for the baby, and then the next seat over is her, and then next to her is me. And so then, I'm thinking like, oh crap, well, where's my wife? Like, is she in the back? And I didn't see her, and she watched the whole thing, and now she's going to divorce me. Like what is going to happen here? And then I'm thinking like, well, what is this girl thinking? She's like, what is wrong with this white boy? Like, he waits until everyone's eyes are closed during the prayer, and that's when he like makes his move on me. Like, what is going on here? And like, well, what'd you do at that point? Like, well, that's a good question. I had a thought about that, right? I'm like, okay, well, I can just get up and leave and just never come back again. I can stand my ground. I already apologized to her. I said I was sorry. thought you were my wife. We could just move on. Do I like move over a chair? You know, like, I don't know. Well, I probably chose the worst option. I just stayed there, and not really to stand my ground. I just was frozen with fear and panic. And so eventually my wife does come in, and she opens the door, and she sees me right there in the front row, and she gives me this look like what are you doing up here? And so she sits down, and I'm like mustering up the courage, right, to confess to her what I just did, because I'm anticipating divorce from her. So I lean over like, hey, Lorinda, you're not going to believe what I just did. You know that dog sniff thing that I do? And she's like, yeah, like, what about it? Well, I just did that to her. And she loses it. She just starts laughing hysterically. And, you know, we're in the middle of a church lesson. And so she's trying to be quiet. So she's got this silent fit of laughter. And, you know, at the end of the class, she tries to make light of it. You know, I just want to die at this point. I just want to stop existing, never see this girl again or anyone else in that class. And she's trying to be like, oh, haha, isn't that so funny that he thought you were me and he did that. And this girl was just mortified. And her and her husband, you know, never came back to church again. And you're probably like, oh, well, you know, maybe he just has, you know, bad vision. Maybe just, you know, wore glasses, and I just didn't have my glasses on that day. Well, I don't wear glasses. And not only do I not wear glasses, I have amazing vision. It's like 2010. So it's like 2020 is perfect, right? Mine is better than that. And this girl didn't even have like the same kind of like clothes on that my wife had that day. The only thing they had in common was that they were both female and they both had black hair. So what do you do?